Hello, welcome to Growing Bremerton Together with your Mayor, Patty Lent. I've got a special guest with me today, and the city now has a new Director of Finance. We've gone nearly the entire year without having a permanent selection. Becky Hasart comes to us from Vancouver, Washington, and in just a few moments I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself and some of the skills that she brings to our city employment. At first, I just want to mention that since we're wrapping up, and of course this is the winter time, we had that terrible snowstorm the last week in November, and it finished just before Thanksgiving. I want to make sure that the citizens of Bremerton are very aware of the work that was done by our utilities and public works. Our street people were out there from noon on Monday in November. I believe that was the 13th or the 21st, and they were there de-icing, scraping the snow, sanding, and making it possible for our people to get around. I did get lots of telephone calls, as well as Puget Sound Energy, Cascade Natural Gas, Comcast, and of course the city and the state. We have that big shipyard that has thousands of people, and when they were let out, our roads really became very congested. The only apology I make as mayor is that we didn't have some things in place. We're treating that particular snowstorm as a wake-up call or a fire drill. And some of the things that we've learned is that we want to be sure that the citizens have some access. We'll be having numbers on the screen that will show you a specific number to call if there's a tree that's down, if you need help with energy, if you need help with traffic, and most of all with those cell phones. We have found that some of the cell phone areas, because of the conditions of the weather and our cell towers, that texting is the only way that you can communicate. So our advice from the city is that young and old and all the people that do carry and have the use of cell phones, that they learn to do some texting and be able to do a text message. That way you can communicate, you can get assistance, you can get the help that's needed. Some of us didn't have electricity for the entire 3 days of our stormy weather, and because of that, we do want you to have those accessible numbers and know how to get communication throughout. With that said, we're going to see that all the people that worked for utilities and streets, some of the conditions that they had to take care of, hundreds of trees were down, and with what's the condition coming forward in our winter months, as you know, it doesn't even start until the 21st of December. We want to be prepared, and we want you prepared. So that's just our first lesson today. Now let's go and learn a little bit about our new finance director. Becky, how long have you worked in city government, and where are your skills and the last job that you were with?
Well, I've pretty much been doing the same job for 15 years. I started with the city of DuPont, which is on the south edge of Pierce County. Was with DuPont for about 6.5 years, and then moved down to the city of Washougal, which if you're not familiar with where Washougal is, it is down on the Columbia River in Clark County, on the Washington state side. So I've been with Washington cities my entire governmental career. I am a CPA certificate holder, specializing in government accounting, fund accounting. Before going into government accounting, I was in the banking industry. I am as close to being a Washington state native as you can get. I am an Army dependent. My father was career military. They did purchase a home the first time he was stationed at Fort Lewis back in the 70s. I finished my high school years in Tacoma, Washington, went to the University of Washington for my business degree. So in a sense, I feel like I am a Washington Northwest girl because of that.
Great.
So I'm real excited to be able to continue my career here in Washington State, and especially with the city of Bremerton.
Oh, we're glad to hear that. Being with DuPont, that is the one city that I believe DuPont as a corporation had a business site. And I've watched and I've been aware of the city growing from the business or commercial side into the city that it represents today.
Absolutely.
As you know, Bremerton has just gone through a revitalization, so we have those same growing pains that you may have been responsible for when DuPont started. So that's even more exciting to have you on board.
Absolutely. In fact, that is one of the many reasons why I actually targeted Bremerton in my career search. Having gone through the growth management and the comprehensive planning to take DuPont from a small, sleepy company town into a vibrant city, and being a part of that team, there were certain skills that you learn and you're able to hone doing that. Again, in the city of Washougal, while I was there, Washougal was the 9th fastest growing city in the state of Washington prior to the economic downturn. So a lot of those skills transferred down very nicely. And in fact, I think I may have mentioned to you when we started looking at doing our waterfront development in cooperation with the Port of Camas-Washougal, the city of Bremerton was one of the test cases that we actually looked to as a proper way to do things.
That poster child.
Exactly. So it was exciting to see that opportunity and already know that you're on the radar. You guys are doing some wonderful things here, and I'm excited to get to be a part of it. So.
That's great. We just, within the last year, annexed our Port of Bremerton. And the port not only has the marina, it's an expanded port now with 300 facilities for moorage, but they have the airport and they have a business park. So we're just in the midst of going through a comprehensive plan, a sub-area planning for that growth area. Again, your skills and having already done that in Washougal is just perfect. One thing that I've learned is every one of our departments, whether it's public works or it's IT, whether it's the police or fire, finance has a piece of every one of the departments. So you're going to be very busy as you get acquainted with all the different departments that we've got.
Absolutely, and quite frankly, they've all been very, very welcoming. I've had a chance now to meet all the directors of the other departments, and we've already started joking around about the different projects that we're going to hit and tackle, and just how we're going to move forward as a team. So
that's great. Now you've got one day on the job. This is your second day. So you're living in the city of Bremerton, and you're not quite settled.
Not yet, but we're getting close. So
you did miss the storm, so hopefully she's in walking distance of City Hall, so that makes it very special, which means you'll be counted on at all times.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the bills will still get paid. So.
I know that there's some challenges coming up. We've got a new director of public works. We've got HR isn't quite a full capacity, and you might just let our citizens know, as finance director, you have lots of other things that you really are the boss. And would you like to just touch on some of the other areas that you'll be responsible for?
Sure. To call it the finance department is actually somewhat misleading because as you just mentioned, it also incorporates human resources, it incorporates information technology, it also incorporates public access television. So with regards, and it incorporates records management. Public records requests comes through this department. Council agenda packets are handled by the city clerk, which is also in this department. Again, access and information dissemination through public access television is all through this department. The website is handled within this department. So it isn't just finance and doing the books and handling the debt service and the taxes. And with regards to the human resources, we also handle all the collective bargaining that occurs. And from what I understand, there are 4 collective bargaining units with the city of Bremerton. And we will be sitting down with them to talk about their contracts. They all do expire next year. And from the groups that I've already spoken to, they are all actually very looking forward to being cooperative and helping us as we get through these tough economic times right now. So
that's terrific. I know that with 9 council members, that's a big chunk of 9 other people that you're responsible with and for, or 2. And this is the first time that in talking to the current president and some of our members, they want us to sit down early on in the first quarter as far as preparing for some of those negotiations. I believe that all department directors and the City Council for the first time are going to have a joint retreat. We're going to find out where they'd like us to go in some of those negotiations for our contracts and to work so we're both on the same page. We know what they're looking for. I think some of that was evident in their last City Council meeting. And I think you've had some experience not only as city clerk, you've done negotiating, so you have more than just being finance. You might just cover just a couple more things that you've also done in smaller cities.
Sure. And, you know, and in some sense, I think it's been an advantage to come up through smaller cities to get where I am now, because you don't have the luxury of specializing in just one area. For example, at the city of DuPont, when I first started there, we were strictly a volunteer fire department. I was part of the team that worked with the IAFF in determining how our paid professional staff and crew would look and how we would handle operations, and then working with what was a part-time fire chief and turning that into full-time, and then negotiating the very first contract with them. At the city of Washougal, before we were large enough to actually spin off a separate HR department, you're absolutely right. I was responsible for HR and for collective bargaining there as well. We had 3 units there. We had the IAF, the local IAFF, of course, the police guild. They were their separate guild, and then we had the ASHME workers for public works and office staff. And I was actually the lead negotiator for a couple of years with all of them. There was a period where we were between public works directors at the city of Washougal, so I also served as the interim public works director for 9 months as well. And you know, and then of course with the city clerk's duties, wrote a lot of ordinances and resolutions, was responsible for the codification of such, to make sure that we were getting that information out as well as handling records management. Pretty much, if you tap me, I try and be where you need me. So
the nicest thing during your interview process, I know that some of the questions that were asked about bringing forward things that this city is facing, we're kind of on a restructuring. We're saying that we're right-sizing city government, and so I, along with your staff and with the rest of the people, the department directors as well as city council, are just elated that you're part of our team. And you just bring a new enthusiasm and that skill set that I think we're all looking forward to. As you probably know, we've been, the last budget was prepared by our finance manager, or a finance manager, and then the budget analyst. And they have never worked so hard. So the biggest relief and the biggest size of relief when you started yesterday was she's here. So I know they're looking forward to just a great 2011. And before we finish up and talk a little bit more about where we're going in 2011, we'd like to take a short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Growing Bremerton Together. And as I say that, we want to talk a little bit with our new finance director, Becky Hasart. And she is, we're going to talk about 2011. A new year's coming, a new budget's been approved by City Council. We have our work cut out. And I know that we mentioned in the first part of our program that bargaining unit, we have them all coming due at the same time. We want to have a retreat with City Council so that we know what the anticipation is for moving forward. And the citizens, they're out there saying what is going to happen with our city of Bremerton if their budget, which they have balanced, is it going to provide the services we need, and how are they going to move into the next 2 or 3 years? Becky, do you have an idea of how you see the city of Bremerton as far as not just our negotiating team, not just our bargaining units, but the cities and our departments together? How do you see us I know commerce is probably the number one thing. So as we talk about the budget itself, revenue is just as important. Can you think of things or ways that we can stretch out and look at areas where a revenue can be generated in the city?
Absolutely. I mean, as you mentioned, economic development is always a huge factor. And I know you have some very, very competent and very, very enthusiastic people working on that. In fact, like I said, part of the reason I was so attracted by this opportunity to come to Bremerton is the efforts that I've seen so far, even from a distance, on what's been done, especially like in your downtown core, and the plans that you have going into the future. You know, that's real big picture, more long term. Even something more simple that we can do on an individual basis, and I know I've already started that myself, is try and shop locally as much as I can. Moving into downtown Bremerton was a very conscious choice that I made, and I've already been scouting, trying to find the different like little shops. I found a little market that I can swing by, trying as much as I can. Nothing against Silverdale, but if I can shop here in Bremerton, that would be my preference. Of course, I do have a bias, knowing that then if I do that, the sales taxes stay here in Bremerton as well to help support our services. So making conscious choices like that. And as you said, I mean, the reality is, just as with any organization, it's not just government, looking at how we spend our money, not just for this next year, but looking 3, 4, 5 years down the road, so that any plans that we put in place now do make sense and are sustainable as we go into the future. Being conservative when we start looking at those plans. It would be nice to say that, yes, the economy is going to turn around immediately and then we can all breathe a sigh of relief. But the reality is that may not happen. Signs are starting to indicate that we are making a slow recovery, but it is slow and it's going to take time. So part of it is also making sure we all have the patience to see these plans come to fruition. Beyond that, just being very aware of what our revenue resources are and then making sure that we are using them efficiently. There's no easy one quick answer.
No.
It's a matter of looking at it all and again working together as a team, you know, all of the departments working with the council. The council is the voice of the people, so I'm very excited to hear we're going to have this joint retreat, because one of the first places we always want to start is to find out what their priorities are.
Correct.
Where is it that they want us to head, and then building our strategy around that, especially when we have so many things coming up this next year. Not only will we start budgeting, you know, looking towards 2012, but we want to look at a more strategic, longer range budget. That's going to take cooperation among all staff members, not just the bargaining units.
Right.
And of course, you know, ultimately making sure that we are meeting council priorities. And so getting that from them to go forward. They represent the people. We work for the people.
Right.
It just makes sense.
We, you had mentioned something a little bit, just your first day, that looking at our long-range plans in the budget, in our capital projects, and we not only have capital projects for our wastewater, our water and sewer, we have the street projects, and we've been very successful in grant funding, so that whether it's federal or state funding, we have kind of set the mark. I know that on efficiency and energy, we were part of Bainbridge Island. We brought in Bremerton and the Port of Bremerton and the county in being a pilot project. There are 4 grants nationwide, and we are the recipients of one of those grants. So we're going to take and work forward on that. We've got some ideas on streetscapes so that we have bicycle lanes and new transportation areas. We want to connect our waterfront. We have park improvements that we're doing, and I know that in finance, everything comes down to grant money is wonderful, but if you have any matching funds, then you really have to be budgetary conscious.
Absolutely.
So as you look at our capital plan, I really want to see how that comes forward when you have that opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. I mean, the capital is also a very big part of it. It's also a very big part of what our quality of life is going to be as we move forward. And yes, we always want to try and maximize as much as we can whatever opportunities we have out there for grants, even low interest subsidized loans through the feds. There's a lot of programs out there where they may no longer give you grant money, but they will give you loans, and actually sometimes forgivable loans at a 0.5%, 1% interest. But we also want to make sure that we aren't just accepting it because it's there. We have to be able to meet their requirements, whatever their matching requirements may be. There's also always conditions attached that we want to make sure that we stay in compliance with. Because if we run afoul of that could jeopardize our opportunities for future grants and future opportunities. So,
one thing that I like about your skill set is we are a charter city. You've come from code cities, and so they have done things maybe a little differently, but it could be incorporated into, again, how we move forward for 2011.
Absolutely. Well, you know, all of us, we are nothing but the sum of our experiences.
That's correct.
You know, and so we all will have different perspectives on how to approach projects. And what I've enjoyed so far, even though this has only been my second day on the job, is just the conversations I've already had with the other directors in talking about how they view things, you know, how I've seen things done in other places. And they too have come from other places at some point. So it's been fun to sit down and just kind of compare war stories, so to speak.
That's great.
And in my mind, when you can do that, sometimes you come up with an even new idea that hasn't been done anywhere. Why not? Sometimes innovation can be a great thing. So
I like that. I like that very much. In the interviews as well, you were thinking out of the box, and I think that's one of the things that endeared you to many of the people that you've come in contact with. As we are involved in outreach and things that are going to be happening in 2011, I just wanted to bring back some information to our citizens. Our Public Works and Utilities actually featured this magazine, and you're going to see a little bit of it on your screen, because I want to show that this is the services that are provided through all of our public works, our utilities, that watershed that you haven't toured yet, Becky, but I know you'll have great joy there. On the back of this particular brochure, it features all the things that are available to the citizens. And one thing is, we have a large percentage of our homes in Bremerton are rentals. We have our shipyard, and when a ship comes in, that's where the necessity is, and our city has a larger percentage of rentals. So this gives you an opportunity. If people are here and they've purchased properties for rentals, it tells you what the procedure is. There is a licensing that does go on. We also have a new brochure that's been listed, and you're going to see this on your screen, the City of Bremerton Property Maintenance for Landlords and for our regular homeowners. It's property maintenance, so that you know to better the neighborhoods, to get our city to look like we want it to look, and for everyone to take the same pride in the city as the city employees do. It does have some information on the back about if you are a landlord, if you are just a homeowner, and I don't say just because we're trying to encourage more home ownership. We have lots of programs available to our citizens. We have an exciting year coming forward. We have an exciting new employee here, Becky. I know that together we want to wish you and our audience a happy holiday, a year of success and profitability for all the people that are in business, whether large or small, and for those of you that are being retrained or because of downsizing in any kind of business, we're there to help you. We are growing Bremerton Together, and we want this to be the team effort that you've referred to throughout our conversation. Absolutely. Becky, welcome. Thank you for being on board, and again, have the best Christmas ever.
You too.
Thanks. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next time.